Let's see, where's my slide? Now, how do I find my slides again? Okay, so what we're talking about today is, remember, we are last week, actually this whole last week, we've been talking about using Python with databases. We've been talking about using Python with databases because one of the main things that we've been mentioning as we've been going in this course is that you have bigger and bigger databases that seem to crop up all the time, and you cannot expect people, actually human users, to use these databases because there are just too many moving parts, and as they get more and more complicated, sort of the queries, and so you can't always have people having to worry about the queries in writing. They shouldn't have to worry about writing code to actually get information out of the database. In fact, a good example of this is that when you are working with Google, Google is in some ways kind of an application that's online that works with a database. So when you type in a search for something, if you're searching for something like, Allegheny College, for instance, I don't know, when you type in that, you'll get information about the college. You'll get news, you'll get imagery, you'll get seemingly everything you want, videos, updates, you get everything. And that information all comes out of a database. And so how that works is that you're typing in a piece of software, and then that software then takes the query that you're asking for and then sends it into a bigger database. It translates your search into code, and then that code is then run as a query. And voila, there you get all your output. And so that is an online system here that works with a database. And so we've gone into working now with Django, and we're going to be doing some more work with Django today. But Django is really a similar kind of thing where you have an online type of system where you can have a website which is attached to a database. Very, very exciting stuff. And so what we're doing today is we're going to be working a little bit more with Django. We're going to be actually establishing a very basic, we're not actually working with the database today, but we're getting everything in order. We do actually connect to the database, but we're not going to be worrying about populating it and doing anything else, but we'll take some time to explore how the database comes together with the software. So that's all on Django. And so I'm thinking that this will be quite an exciting time here. So let me just get this thing ready, if I can find my, notes. Okay, and one thing I wanted to say, though, is that before I get into this Python Anywhere, today's lab, we do have a lab, so please do please do log into lab. It's going to be quite an exciting lab. I can give you a heads up on what the lab's going to look like. The lab is going to be working with some Python, but it won't be, I think, a completely crazy lab here. I think you'll find this lab is actually kind of fun. So I'm hoping that you'll join me there. Otherwise, if you don't, then you'll find the lab materials all on class docs when you're next able to be with us. Okay, one thing I want to talk about, though, is before I get involved in going too far ahead of myself here, I came across this website called Python Anywhere. And really what it is you're able to run Python in the cloud. Now, it's not just running Python in the cloud, but actually you're able to actually create, for instance, a Django website and run this online free of charge. Of course, that's not their business model. The business model is that you pay for it, then you get your own domain. That's how they make their money. But you can still create your own Django website and have it running in the cloud. And I think that I think your domain your free domain would be something like, Dr. Bonham-Carter.pythonanywhere.com. That would be my domain website. And so you can always go into your thing here, do a search for pythonanywhere.com, and you'll find this really cool website that talks about how you can actually connect to an online Python place. You can type in code, you can run Python, you can run Java, or sorry, not Java. You can run JavaScript, I was going to say, in your for your website. But you can host all this stuff and put it all together. Now, this class is not brought to you today by Python Anywhere, but I wanted to let you know because eventually you will all be going out into the real world and you'll be looking for jobs and things, and so you'll need to have a website that's actually kind of exciting and interesting and kind of brings out your CV and puts everything together so that you can show the world what you're made of. And there's a lot of pieces that make you up. And so I want you to feel free to find some way of communicating all that excitement about you online so that you can get the best possible job interviews and opportunities that you're entitled to. Anyway, so just an idea you can think of here. There are other websites too. I'm not just saying that Python Anywhere is the only and best place, but it's just one of the things out there. But it's an idea, and you can use it for your website. Anyway, so today's task is, well, let's go back to yesterday. So yesterday, or rather on Monday, we were talking about what Django does and for whom, like who uses it. But today we're going to be creating another iteration of this Django, and we're going to be creating kind of a small, what I call hello world page, which means we're going to be creating a website. And in our website, we're going to be creating a part of that website which just says hello world. It's kind of exciting, but kind of useless at the same time. But I think that you'll see that once you see how the files come together, then you'll get an idea about how you can use this for maybe more advanced, more interesting applications. Tomorrow, and I'm going to say tomorrow here on Friday, we're going to be talking about how to actually connect SQL to our database and actually use our database to store information in a database. Today we set up the database, but we're not actually going to be populating that database. We'll just put some things. We'll just see that it exists. We'll check out the schema, and we'll see what we can do with it. Okay, God, I'm just too excited, you guys. I'm just too excited. You know, the tension's running wild in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to these commands. These are the same commands that you would have seen on Monday. Now, one thing is this is all for Mac and Linux. I did find out something interesting, which I've updated the slides, and that is that in many versions of Python, you have this virtualizing software already built in. And so you can always try this if you find that your virtual env, this part over here, if that doesn't install or something is going wrong with that, then this appears to be some kind of a clone that you can use to actually make it run. So I'll show you what I mean by this. Let me just go to my prompt, my terminal rather, and then you can see what I'm doing. And so what I'm going to do is, I can find my way back to my, I know that this looks really crazy, but I have like so many things on my screen that you can't see. I mean, I can't see one window from the next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into, go to my root directory here, and I'm going to just make a directory here. I'll call it Django working, which is where we were before. I think I've erased that by mistake. But anyway, I'll go ahead and start everything all over again. And one thing I have to worry about is on my Mac, I have, if I just type in Python, then I get into Python 2.7. And it says that 2.7 is not recommended. It's actually kind of funny, just to take a break here and consider the irony of this. When I type in a password, or and I type in some kind of a program name in my computer, the computer says don't use this program. It's kind of unusual. So I'm going to take the computer's advice here and not use Python 2, but rather on my system I have to type in Python 3 to get to Python 3. I don't know why it isn't Python should just go to Python 3 in my computer, and then I should be typing in Python 2 to get to Python 2, because that would just be more fundamental. And so the reason why I'm saying this is because if you go back to the slides for a moment here, you'll notice that each time I give you some commands, either I say it's in Python or it's in Python 3, and that is entirely dependent upon your computer. So how your OS, I guess, set up your Python. And so you want to choose the Python which correlates to Python 3, not 2, because 2 has gone away, which is actually kind of sad. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'll just type in some commands here. And so the command I was going to type in was Python 3, and in your case it might be Python 2, but who knows. -m venv, which is going to be the name of my virtual environmental software that's going to be called up. And then I have to give it a name here, my venv. I think that this would work. And I'm just going to kind of hold my breath for a second here. And when I run this, you can see that I get a directory that shows up. It's a little bit different. It's not the same name as what we had before. If you go back to the slides, where are the slides here? I know that the slides are talking about using, actually when we create this environment, somewhere it's called env or something, or my env. It's a different name, but it's okay. It still works. As long as you remember what the name of your virtual environment is, then that's really all that matters. Excuse me. So go ahead and try that command out. And I'm thinking that I'm hoping, and I don't know this, but I'm hoping that if you're using a Windows machine, perhaps one of my scholars in here can tell me who's using Windows, if you type in that command, does it give you a virtual environment? Yeah, if you type in this command here, does that give you a virtual environment? Well, anyway, I'll let you work on it, but please let me know. Or anyone, and viewers at home, if you have found that this works on your Windows machine, please let me know. I'd love to hear. I ask you this because I have no way of checking these things, but I read documentation, and the documentation suggests that this should work. So I'm just going to take it on face value that it does. Okay, now next. Okay, let's go back to the slides for a second here so you can see what the next parts are. So as you remember, you need to now, I'm just going to say that this part over here, the creation of my environment is done, and I use this code to make that happen. I'm going to now move on to the next piece here where I have to activate the environment. That means I have built my house. It works. That is excellent. So I've just received confirmation that Windows. I can't believe that I'm getting so excited about this stuff. I mean, don't tell my family. I just can't believe it. But if you run this on Windows, it should work. But make sure that whatever the Python is that you have installed for Python 3, whether it's called Python or Python 3 on your machine, that you're using that version for Python 3. Okay. Now, let's go back to the slides here and keep going. So where are we now? So we are going to now, we've built our house, and so now we have to actually get inside the house and then use that as our environment. So what I'm going to do is I'll just take you inside this directory and I'll show you what we have. The file structure is exactly the same as the virtual environment that we installed using pip on Monday. I think it's actually the same code in some ways, just a different name. But if you go into, for instance, this bin directory, you'll see that you have activate. Now, I'm going to just run it by going to this directory and then typing source activate. And I would do this on my Mac machine. However, if you're doing this on your Windows machine, I think you just type in activate by itself. Is that right? That's right.
The way I've been doing it, you can do it that way, but I would went into the folder my environment, and then through my PowerShell command prompt, whatever you're going to be using, you do scripts, then the backslash, and then activate, so then you're still in your environment.
Okay, that's good. So we're saying that you can use the PowerShell, and you can type in scripts backslash activate, and that should do the same thing. So you can actually be inside you can call up your environment, and then still be inside another directory where you need to work. That's using the PowerShell, not the command prompt, but the PowerShell. So please try that and let me know what you find. Hopefully that'll work. And I'm hoping that I'm assuming that everyone here is able to make this thing work. If it isn't, get in contact with me. Or just let me know, so I don't just keep on going on. But I've just run this command right here, activate, and that's running this. That's actually hitting this program right here. And you'll notice that when you're running this, when you're inside your environment, you'll have like this little area right down here. Can I ask my Windows scholars, when you run this, when you're inside your environment, do you have this my env marker?
Yes. You should want to use PowerShell instead of command prompt.
Okay.
For some reason that just works better.
Okay. So in PowerShell, you do have this marker down here to signify that you are inside your environment. It happens in command. Okay, so it happens in both of them, but there's probably more reason to use PowerShell. Okay. Okay, as long as you know that you're inside your environment, that's really all that I'm curious about. The thing is, though, that for instance, if I were to run another terminal, if I were to call up another terminal, that other terminal would not be inside this environment because I haven't run activate or source activate on my machine, and so anything I run in there would not be inside the environment. Anyway, so now we have kind of created this house. Now we're inside the house. And so now we're going to start doing our work. And what is our work? Our work is going back here, and we need to install Django inside in this area. So remember, you have to use pip install Django each time you create an environment, I guess, each time a new environment, which doesn't have anything in it. Because if you think of Django or pip install Django, it's like you're installing the furniture inside your house. And so now this is a brand new house, which is called my venv. and I need to install my furniture. I think that on my computer it's going to be pip3 install Django. Your computer may be pip, not pip3, but pip install Django. So maybe it's different. But on my machine, though, it's just the way that this was installed. I guess I should have changed the names on things, but it's going to be. I use this command here, pip3. Anyway, yeah. So just go ahead and try that out. So then another thing you can do then is once we've done that, we can go back to our slides, and I have some code in here that you can use to see whether this is for Windows. If you're using Windows, this is how you start your system. Remember, you want to use that in the PowerShell. But once you're inside, once you've actually installed your version of Django, then you can run this code over here inside your virtual environment. Let me get back to my transition here. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and type in this code and see that it works. And so if Django had not installed, if something had gone wrong, then first of all, you'd see that something going wrong here. Something terrible would have happened here. You would have seen some kind of error message or blah, 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 or it's not working, or some kind of fault error, something. But certainly, though, this is your way of knowing that you actually have installed Django, because it's telling you what version of the software has been installed. And so that's important. So now what we have to do is go back to our slides, and now we're going to say, okay, well, now that we've installed our version of Django, in fact, I wonder whether, let me just go back to this. Let's go back here and see what we can do. If I type in Python 3, there we are. So it looks like on my system I have all this. I have Python and Python 3. I guess that makes sense. I may have installed this before. I'm not sure. Anyway, but if you have, on my system, it seems like both of my Pythons. Oh, I know. I know what's going on here. Let me just go back. Since I'm inside my environment, if I just type in Python, my environment says now this is the way that this is what's happened when I install on my machine. It's probably the same or similar on yours, but on my machine, when I'm inside my environment, typing Python means Python 3.61. So I don't think I have to type in like Python. If I type in Python 3, it still works. But if I type in Python by itself, it's still version 3. And that is because that's how the environment works. So that means now that I'm inside here, all Pythons are version 3 for me. That's why that works. It's very cool. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to actually create our Django project, remember? And the project is, I'm going to call this, it's not a very interesting name, but I'll just call it I'll call it my site. And your code for that is going to be Django, D-J-A-N, Django, and then it's an admin program that we're running here. Start project, and I'll call this my site. And I push enter. Excuse me, nothing seems to have happened. But actually, you do have some things that have happened here. Let me just go back here and show you what I think happened. Oops, maybe I'll run this again. I think it works, but I want to put this into a better directory. So I'm going to put my project. I'll just run this again. There we go. Oh no, is it? I think that maybe I've. Where is I? Where did my things go? See, it went here. I wonder if I can move that. Where did it go? Move my site backwards. Okay. There we go. So I'm thinking that now I have built my site. I put it in the right place where I want it. I want it just outside of my environment like this. So all my environmental stuff is going to be here, and my site is going to be here. And hopefully I can get this thing to work. Now if I go into my site and I type in ls, you'll see that you have some files in here. Now let's just go ahead and get started with what we were working with before. We'll just get our program up and started. Now remember that when you actually run when you're interacting with your website here, you have this command this program called manage. You can see that. Manage is the kind of the central nerve of the whole website. So that's like how you'd start it and stop it, and how you could tweak things. And so I'm going to use the same command here, Python manage run server, to make this whole thing run. And so if I go back here and just paste that in there, Python manage run server, I'm hoping, okay, it works. I was concerned that by moving these files around, it wasn't going to work. Now let me just go and show you what I can do. One thing you can do that, I don't know if you can see this, you can't see this where I am, but actually I have a button that I can click on that's just for my local host. I've actually on my toolbar in my browser, I've typed in this address here. You can't see this on your screen. Oh gosh, you can't see that on your screen. Tell you what, I'm going to move this down so that you can see it. Give me a moment here if I can just do this. Hopefully now you can see. Okay, you can see it, sort of. It's kind of cut off. I can't really do much about that. But what I'm trying to say, though, is that, can you see where I am up here? Yeah, you can see that. So at the very, very top, just above the word Django, I have a button on my toolbar that just says localhost :8000. And when I click on that, that actually takes me to my localhost 8000 port, which is where the Django is running locally. Now, I should tell you that you're not running anything online. Instead, what you're running a website on your own machine. So it's actually on this machine. It's not, you don't need an internet connection to make this thing happen. And so your computer now becomes a kind of a mini internet, if you will, which is hosting your website that your browser is now logging into. And to tell the browser where to find that, it doesn't have to go online, but rather it has to go to, this is 127.0.01. This is the URL address for your local machine. So that's like you're really making it, it's like you're at home calling yourself. And your 8000 right here is kind of like the room in your home. So you're at home calling yourself in a specific room in your house. And so this room or this port is actually the location where this website is being run. If you change this number from 8000 to like 8001, it'll say unable to connect. So I'm telling you this because when you are running your Django website, one of the most common problems that I come across in this course is that everything is fine. The coding is great, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But when people are actually running their website, they have the wrong host. And so it's not connecting that way. But otherwise, there's nothing wrong. If you see an error, it's probably not your code. Up until now, it's probably not your code. It just means that the port is wrong. One more thing I'll talk about is that when you are interacting with your website, this window, this terminal, will show activity as it comes through. And so, for instance, all of this stuff is really saying that I've reset my computer screen. In fact, I'll leave this open and I'll push I'll reload the page here. And each time I push reload, you can see that things are moving. I'll just push it like 4 or 5 times. And you can see that is what you get when you're interacting with your website. So you have all this activity here. And so this could be, in some cases, a log. And so on some configurations when you're running your Django, all of this information would be poured out into a log file so that you can see what was going on. It's a security thing. So you can see, for instance, what pages were being loaded, what was happening, and maybe some of the types of interactions that your website has had. Let me just go back here and talk about something else. Okay, so getting back to the actual site, don't forget that you have the actual HTML address right here that you can use on your local machine to find your website. Anyway, I'm hoping that that everything worked out, that everyone was able to get into this stage of the game here, and if that didn't work, then go back and check your steps. I'm sure that it must be something very simple. But if it doesn't work out, please get in contact with me or your TLs, and then we can find reasons for why it didn't work. But I'm thinking, though, that if you just go back to your slides and you just follow these steps very, very closely, it should work the way it is. Okay, so I wanted to talk about quickly this, if you type in this command right here, this is actually a very strange looking command, but what it does is, I'm not going to go through the regular expressions here. You may have to wait for Dr. Kaphammer's class to go through those regular expressions, but you can look them up if you want. But what it's doing, though, is it's looking through every file in your local area. This is what that means here. It says basically go through all the files and return whatever files you find. So now if I go back to here, And I can, let me just stop my thing. And by the way, when you're stopping your website, you want to hit Control C, and then your website now is stopped. And you can tell that it's stopped because if I go back to here and I hit reload, it's going to crash because it's no longer being supported by my software. Okay, so getting back to this thing here, I wanted to just show you some of the more interesting files that have come out. If I just type in this funny password or this funny cryptic looking command here, you'll find that you get kind of an overview of all the files that are here. Now, this will be important later on. Right now, it may not be so important because you only have the actual stencil of the website itself. But as you start building more and more pieces onto this website, you might use this command much, much more. And by the way, this is just a piece of Linux script. It may not work in PowerShell, but that's okay. It's not essential. But just so you have an idea about what your files are. And so all these files, my site, these are all the files that are actually contained in your that actually kind of run the website itself. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating another directory inside here, which is just going to say hello, and that's going to be kind of the arm of your website that says hello. It's the most optimistic part of your whole website project. But this stuff that we see right here, that's the code that actually keeps your website together, and that means it directs where people are going to be going. It keeps track of the usernames and passwords and some other things, but it's basically all there. Here we have the database itself, and then of course down here we have our file our program that actually coordinates our whole website together using these files. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is that about this file here, this DB file. If I go into SQLite3, SQLite3, we're now inside of our database. But if I type in tables, it's empty. There's nothing here. And so our next step is actually to provide is to kind of add some, to make that database work. But for now, though, let's just we'll make another app on this thing, and then we'll go back to that database and see what we can do. So let me see, how do I get back to this? I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here. So we're going to add some functionality here. And the database doesn't need to be run just yet because it doesn't really do anything. But once we have this functionality, then we will, and then we'll see how that all comes together. But for now, though, we're going to make what's called an app, a web app. It's a funny name. I usually think of an app as something that kind of stands by itself, but this is what they call a web app. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating this web app on our My Site website. That means My Site is going to have some extra functionality. And the app that we have here is just going to print something like a hello world or something that's very basic here. Isn't that useful? It is kind of useful in a way, I will say, because if you know how to put an app together and make it print something, then that's winning. So the next command we need to do is we're going to be running this thing called start app. Now, the other command that we had was, let me just take you back to show you something. We had this command here called start project. Now, start project was a decent command that actually brought up the whole website. Now, that's important to actually start the website, but now that the website has been created, we won't need that command again. The command is now this start app, but it does essentially the same thing. So let me go back to where I am here. I'm going to get out of this thing. Type.exit. Remember, I still have to be inside this thing here. I still have to be inside my environment. So if you haven't quit your website by pressing Control-C, you want to do that now so you can get back to this prompt here and still be able to work while you are inside this environment. In other words, don't open up another terminal or another command prompt. You want to actually be in this command prompt here because this is your environment where you have all your pieces. Okay, so I'm going to be typing my command here, and the command is this Python, manage.py, and then I have this thing here called starts app, and I'm going to call it hello. So I press enter, and nothing too extraordinary happens. Actually, you know what? I need to, yeah, that's it. That's right. I have to be inside my site directory. So for instance, you'll see that here I am, Django working. I'm inside my site. And then inside my site, I have my hello app. Now let me just show you again by running my crazy command that I had before. You can see now that this is my command, the find command that I was using. You can see now that my file structure has changed. These are the original files that we discussed just moments ago. But now this is the new stuff that came out as a result of running start app. So start app actually does bring you up with this, you now have this, you're actually creating a kind of some kind of functionality, if you will, something that your database can actually use, or something that will actually do something, something that does something. It has some functionality. Okay, so let's get back to the slides for a second here. What's our next thing here? So actually, I have all this information here, but this hello stuff, that's the new functionality of your database, or your website, I should say that. This is just some notable files that you should know about, because you'll be going to these files again and again and again to actually make things happen. When I say make things happen, what I'm saying is that when you are actually building your website, building a website in this case means to modify these files, to add files, or basically to add to these files and tell them that new files are there. But these are like your main files that you'll be working with to create some functionality in your system. So we have the apps.py. I don't think you'll be using that yourself. I think that's all used automatically by the system itself, but that's your main app. That's your main hello app. Then you'll have a models.py file. This is actually quite interesting. That's connected intimately with your database. The models.py file, in fact, on that's actually very similar to code that we have already written in this class, where we are using Python to interact with the database. And so this models.py is going to be interacting with our database. It's going to be taking the code or the queries that your user provides, and then translating those statements into SQL through Python, and then putting those to the database, and then getting some kind of result back, parsing it, and then returning it back to the user who's on the other side of the website. We'll talk about this extensively. The tests, this is just for adding some tests for debugging, making sure that your website is actually working properly. Views, this is a file that you'll use to control how you're able to view a page. So for instance, you'll have different pages that users are going to be clicking on. And so those pages have to be somehow recorded in some way so that the user, so that the website can find the page that the user is requesting. We'll talk about that too. We'll talk about all of these. We're going to talk about this one today. In fact, this is your URLs. This, you can imagine, is kind of like the doorkeeper of your website, your main website. Somebody comes to the door, and it asks, who are you looking for? And it says, I'm looking for the hello page. And then it will tell that person where to go in the website so they can find the hello page. That's all done through here. Now this is this other one, URLs. This is another doorkeeper, which is at the hello app. And so the person then would have come from the main, the main doorkeeper, the website, and would come to the hello app department, if you will, and say, hello, I'm here looking for the index HTML file for my hello app. And then this file here will then direct that person to that file in this part of the project. So these are like your doorkeepers. That's the main doorkeeper, which then will refer to people to this to the project doorkeeper here. Anyway, I think that you'll see what I mean when we move on here. So we have these two different files here, URLs for the my site, like the my site URLs, and then we have my site hello URLs. These are two different files that do very similar things, but they're really not to be confused. And so please do keep an idea on which file you're working on, because if you add the wrong code to the wrong URLs file, it could be terrible. But they're really used to hold the URL information, but in different capacities here. So let me just go ahead and take you through this command here. One thing I'm going to do is before let me go back to my editor here. Here I am in my editor. I'm going to now create I'm using Adam here. I'm creating a project folder, which means I'm going to go and tell Adam where the files are that I want to work from. Hopefully I can find that without any trouble. Django, there we go. You can see, hopefully, yeah, you can see that. You can see where my files are. I can see that I have my site over here, and this is my environmental files here. I'll never use those. I just leave those the way they are. But I'm going to be going into the Hello app and the My Site things. You'll notice that, for instance, the My Site has this file URLs already included, but there is no file in the Hello project just yet. Now, there's no URLs file there. We have to actually create that ourselves. So what we're going to do first is we're going to change the URLs file in My Site. So you go back over here, and I've just kind of created the code for you so you can have an idea about what's going on. Now, this is where things get kind of complicated because I'm talking about like right down here, all this information. But I mean, it looks complicated, but it's not as bad as it may seem. This over here is this whole area, the URLs patterns, is really what the person who's logging into your website is looking for. So that's like, for instance, when they type in the website name, and then there's a slash, and then they have like something after that slash, then that's something that comes after that slash. That is what happens here. In this case, there is nothing after the slash. It's just the website without anything after it. But here, if somebody types in the name of your website, which is www.mysite.com, say, /admin, then what happens when they type in /admin is that they're going to be taken to this place. And this is these are files on your machine here. We'll talk about all these things here. Just bear with me here. If they type in, for instance, after the website, they type in hello, then you're going to take them to this file. And so what we have here is that these are kind of the directions that somebody can go when they arrive at your site here. And so this first part before the comma is what the user types in to get there. And then once the user has typed that, once it's understood that the user has typed that in this case, there's nothing in the quotes. That means don't tell them, or don't accept, or don't, we're not looking for anything here. If anyone just types in the name of the address, just take them here. But the thing is though that once someone has typed something in, then take them to this part of the code. So let's just go ahead and put that in. I'm going to go and just copy this, and of course this is going to be a disaster. I can just feel it because it's not going to copy and paste well, I'm sure. I can remove all this other stuff here out of my file that I'm working with and just paste this in there. Hang on a moment, I need to, just lost my file. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I need to go back and kind of edit things around a bit. When you edit things, please be very careful that you're, I'm not really being very careful, but make sure that your code actually does look exactly as it does in this file. When you copy and paste it, it's not going to look exactly the same. I do apologize for that. I'm not exactly sure how I can fix that. It just seems that whenever I copy things, it doesn't work. So I have my code going to look like this, where I have, let me think here, just trying to make sure that everything's correctly done here. Just trying to order things. I have this URL line, that URL line, and this URL line, and then I have this over here at the end. And so your code should look like this, and this is exactly, I'll get back to this in a second, but it should be exactly like this. And the reason why I say that is because if it doesn't look exactly like that, if the tabs are out of whack or there's a space where it shouldn't be, then Python is going to complain. And so as you're working with these files here, please do keep the idea that it must look like this. I mean, even though when you copy and paste it, you don't get the spaces, which is really annoying. But you do get this. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'll see what happens when I go back down to my, I hate to say that, I'll see what happens. But when I go back to my, let's see, terminal, and I run this, I'm going to see what has happened here. So I'm going to go ahead and just run this again. Remember the command for that? Python manage run server. Now, if everything has gone correctly, then you shouldn't get this over here. That means that I've made a mistake somewhere. That means there's a space where it shouldn't be, and I'll have to go back now and fix that error. And so let's see what I can do then. So I wonder whether there isn't something like down here. Let me just check this and see what I'm up against. In fact, if I go back to my, what have I done here? Let me run this again. Let's see if I can reset my error message. There we go. So I have, there's an error message right here in 598 in URL patterns. And that comes from, oh, there's something here. Let me just go back and look at my code again. I'm sure I'll see it. Let's have to spend some time looking at this stuff. Let me think here. I think I'm going to go back to my, tell you what, I'm going to go back to my slides. And I'm going to study this while I'm studying this other thing here. And so what have I done here? Let's see, from Django, configure URLs. Okay, so I've got that. URL patterns. I have this URL. Okay, so that I wonder whether maybe it isn't something to do with, you can't see what I'm typing in, but what I'm trying to do is go through my code here. It does work, I can assure you. I just have to make sure that I'm looking at the right code here. Admin, see this over here. I've got that. I've got that. It should work. I'm not exactly sure why that's not coming together. I wonder whether I'm not doing something. Tell you what I can do. I do have the files here. Let me just leave that for a second. Let me see what I can find. I do have a file actually already created someplace. Let me see if I can pull that up and show you. Just so I'm not spending all your time looking up for this thing right now. Teaching to just a moment, guys. Sorry about this. I'm working. Actually, it's my sites. Okay, so sorry, running Django project, my site. Do that there. So I'm thinking that if I go back, oops, don't save. I'm going to bring this back again. I've just copied in the file that I think that I've just created. Hopefully this will do the trick. If it doesn't work, I'm going to. I don't understand what this is. Yes, sir.
I don't appear to have those are URLs.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's right. Okay, perfect. So what's happening is that's the reason why this is not working. It's because we haven't put all the files in. It's not going to run this yet. We still. Thank you, Alexander. We have to add the rest of these files here. So we can't actually run it. I was going to show you what happens when you first put this in, but we can't actually do that until we have this next file here. And so this file here is this urls.py. So go ahead and copy this, put this into your editor. If you can see where I'm working here. Okay. Go ahead and put that into your editor, and we're going to create. Where's my editor again? I need to go to my site, and actually, it doesn't really matter here. I'll make a new file. I'm going to push this information into that file. And then what I have to do is format everything and make it look pretty. And then I'm going to save it as this hello urls py file. So that's why this isn't working. Yeah, okay, that's... Let's just keep this between ourselves, everybody. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have to edit this crazy looking file. File needs to be there. Okay, so I'm going to start from, I guess it starts from here. And now I need to go to, hopefully I can put this all together as is. I'm looking at the notes themselves right now to know how I'm putting this file together. But once it's there, you'll see. I do apologize for, hang on a second, why is this not? Okay, import fuse. And then I have this next thing over here where I'm going to be having this URL patterns. Bring that over, and then I'll just put that on the next line like this, and that should be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and save this. In my sites, I have to go to hello, and then I save this. I'll show you in a second. I'm looking at. Okay. So this is what I've just done. So I've created this file here. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm inside my site hello, and I've just created this file urls.py, and in that file I've just put the contents of this script there, and so this is what my file is going to look like. We can't run this database we can't run the website just yet to see what happens. I was going to show you that before. I was thinking that maybe I could get it to just to show you like the partial build, but you can't actually show a partial build because you have to have all the files present. And so I looked at them. I'm indebted. Thank you. Okay, so once your code looks like this, and it should be, I mean, it should look exactly like that. But once your code looks like this, let's see what's the next steps that we have to do. We're going to go down and we're going to create this file here called views, which is exactly the same type of situation where I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And again, it's probably not going to, this is so annoying how I can't just run this thing easy. But I'm going to make this file here called views. And remember, views is going to be in my hello. And so views is a file that's going to take the user into the hello app and then show them information. It allows them to view a website. Now, I know that we're running out of time here. Just bear with me for just a moment here while I try and quickly throw this stuff in here. You'll go into hello. You find that views already exists. I'm going to go ahead and just remove all that information there, dump everything in here, and I'm going to go back into my code here. I've got to make sure that everything kind of comes together. It's right here. I wish that I could find a better way of incorporating some of this code here, but it doesn't seem to want to work. We will discuss everything about all these, what these files do, I guess, on next time we all meet on Friday. For now, I just want you to feel the rush that you get when all this stuff comes together and it all works. And then we'll actually go through and talk about the anatomy of this website. I'm going to go ahead and just run this information, or run this right now, just to see what happens. I think that when I've changed the files as I have, I think what I need to do is to actually stop the website and then to run it again. And hopefully that does work. Okay, good. The reason why it wasn't working before is because, and we have to fix this too, we'll fix that on Friday. And we'll fix this on Friday too. But the reason why this wasn't working was because we didn't have all the files included. But now I'm going to go to this website here, and I'm going to see what it looks like when I run this. I have to say that I'm very excited about this. Which sounds just depressing, doesn't it? How can someone be so excited? So you'll see that when you first log in here, we get the Django administration page. Now the reason for that is because that's the information, that's actually that's where we're telling users to go. One more thing I'll say just before we break here, and I don't want to keep you all forever. I know that you're very busy, but I'll just make one more thing here. The reason why we are seeing that admin page when you run this is because when somebody just types in the name of the website without anything after it, it takes you to the admin page. Anyway, that will have to be sufficient for today. I think that we'll go back on Friday. We'll talk about these files, but I'm hoping that you can actually maneuver these files in such a way so you can actually get your database, not your database, your website working. On Friday, we'll actually connect the database and get everything working there too. But I'm hoping that you have the skill now to actually get this thing working, and actually able to kind of get to this point here. Anyway, we'll cover this on Friday. Are there any questions at all? Anyone have any questions at home? If it doesn't work for you, please do go back, visit the slides, and go back over your steps very, very closely. It should work in the slides there. All right, everyone's at home, stay well, and I'll see you all on Friday. Take care. Thank you.